Okay, so there's only two things between you and the cocktails now, and this is our esteemed panel here. and of course the concluding remarks. And so I think we're going to wing this a little bit here, and we're going to improvise because we want to really finish at 5:15 and then invite you to the final cocktails and to join in network and everything. So we've achieved a lot so far in the last 2 years. We got many data, we got buy-in, we got engagement from the public services, from our NAPs in the member states, etc. But as I said, it's only the tip of the iceberg, and we want to deepen this, we want to get more data, we want to feedback the rewards that come from these data back to you, and above all, we want to make this sustainable. The structures that we've built are not supposed to just vanish into thin air by the end of this particular project. And I think in the true spirit of subsidiarity, in the long term, we might be looking for some solution where some of the efforts, some of the funding comes from the EC, but also some of the fundings and structures come from the member states, and we're going to make these sort of like meet up and fuse. So to discuss these issues here, we have a highly illustrious panel here. Thank you for joining the panel and providing your expertise and experience. And let's jump right in. I think you've been briefly introduced by Andrea already, so I think in view of the little time that we have, I'd really like to start the discussion. And let's begin with a vision. And let's begin with Marco Marcella. Marcus, what is your vision for data sharing and sustainable structures in Europe?
Well, thank you. I will try to respect your 15 minutes. So describing a vision is not easy. Describing a vision is not easy, but I need to put it into the context of what we are doing in general for multilingualism at the European Commission. The creations of an infrastructure to collect data is an important component of our endeavor on self-automated translation. It's a key component because it is through that we will serve the purpose of the digital services infrastructures that we are building. So in terms of a vision, what I see there is the delivery of these omni-comprehensive solutions, automated translation, which has the machine factory translations factored in, like I guess Marcus Foti discussed or introduced it yesterday or today, and then you have an infrastructure that is able to provide the data that we need to customize and deliver quality translations within the institutions and serving the public administrations. Now, to do that, your efforts today is one of the key cornerstones of that solutions, and we believe that through these efforts, what we want to get is, let's say, first, a difference in culture, understanding that sharing language resources data held in public administration is good for the citizens at the end. And it's important to realize that there are benefits around it. So this endeavor is not just to create an infrastructure to repurpose the data, but it's also to create a culture of repurposing within those institutions. Now, to do so, well, we need people, and we need people that are able to engage other people. So the vision is that that engagement becomes sustainable. It's not only the infrastructure. So we don't see the delivery of the repositories at the end of the story. We need to see something which feeds into the general visions of providing quality machine translations, and it is sustainable in the future. So how we will do that? I mean, this is a big experiment, and we are developing it now together with you in your countries, in your organizations. It's an experiment because localizing this data is not easy. Understanding what you can do with that data is not easy. I very much like your jargon there. So we also have a jargon on using this technology. But at the end of the day, the vision is that within the next, let's say, time frame, 3 years, and then the next financial framework, we will be able to create a solution that is delivering the quality translations to a vast majority of the European citizens through our DSIs.
Thank you, Marco. So it's not just the structures, the technical infrastructures, but it's in particular the people that carry the word into the member states and make things happen in the member states. Given that our member states and the CEF-affiliated countries are so different, given that we've seen so many different best practices today in the talks, from Finland to the Baltic countries, to France, to Spain, activities that are underway in Spain, can I ask the panelists to comment on this and to see whether they can see any language, any country-specific structures, any commonalities emerging? And could we start with Taru first?
Oh, that's an easy question. Thank you very much. Well, to be frank, I think, first of all, I share this idea of having this infrastructure in place, but then going further on to having this vision and having the people who understand. And in our case, I think it's that we get the people who decide to understand. And from there on, I think that we can move on to let them know that still we need some language-specific structures. We also need to be able to identify the best occasions where to use MT or NMT or what kind of systems, and also to allow that we, within our each and every country, we are allowed to experiment, that they don't expect right away that now that we have someone working with the specifics of Finnish, that it will right away provide some profits and more efficiency, and we need less translators and we can get more for less, etc., etc. We need to understand that this doesn't happen overnight, and in the end we still need people not just to understand but also to do the work, to be sure that we still provide good quality work.
Mm-hmm. We haven't heard from Jeffrey and Thierry. We have that occasion to hear from you, so may I invite you to comment?
Sure, I'd be pleased to. I represent two different organizations here. On the one hand, I'm employed by the Ministry for Foreign Affairs in Sweden, so as a representative of that group, we have in place in Sweden, I can only talk about for Sweden here, we have an informal group of contacts with both the Swedish Parliament and the Swedish National Bank, where we do translation memory sharing among ourselves. We meet regularly. We also have a certain amount of contact with the police authority and the defense, the Swedish Armed Forces. We prefer not to do as much with them because they don't have as many native language, mother tongue English translators. So we share some of our memories with them. I don't think we would put their memories into our memories because of the quality issue there. We also, something I'm particularly proud of is that I've initiated what I call the Translators Drop-In, which is a once a month event where all the translators in our little network get together at a pub for a beer in the evening regularly and talk about either translation issues or just social issues, which is very, very pleasant, and it keeps us all together. My other role, I'm also a representative of CATSOS, which was mentioned before. I'm a past president, no longer so. I would encourage anybody here who's interested in joining our organization, it is open to any public services, to please either contact me, Rainier, I see you over there as well. I am currently also the chair or the co-chair of the New Technologies Working Group. We are in the process of putting together a new survey that we will send out to all of our member services to discuss their issues with machine translation, among others, which will be ready in the autumn of next year. Interesting things.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Well, hi everybody.
Thierry.
So I guess I'm here more I have a double role as well, as a researcher mostly in machine translation, but I'm here mostly as the coordinator of the ELRC initiative. And I'm very glad, of course, to have participated in this event and talking with people from different member states. It confirms a bit the approach we have, the idea we have that sharing language resources, we'll know, is not simple. It's not an easy task to do. There are so many issues at the country level. We all know we're going to benefit from shared language resources at the national level, European level. We know we benefit as users, as translators, as experts in machine translation. For multilingual Europe, we know we have to share these resources. And our initiative addresses some concerns that have surfaced over the years. At the national level, it's not always easy to determine which resources can I share. What's the chain of decision to reach the level where I can go directly and transmit my data for it to be useful at the European level. So these are the issues that are really typical in what we're all doing. So in this initiative, we want to provide a way to address these concerns by developing infrastructure where we're going to provide national public relay stations where the dynamics will be, let's first create something where language resources reach these national relay stations. And upon further clearance, further legal assistance, further help, we can reach the European level. I believe that going in this bottom-up layered approach will solve some of the issues, not all of them, of course. No one has a solution that fits all the issues. But this will be one contribution which I think might be useful. So we're going to start with 4 member states. That's part of the initiative. But the idea is to, of course, test it with these 4 member states, but then extend it and collect more specifics from more countries and see how we can design and provide a very flexible system that addresses the specific issues of stakeholders, because there are several. So we know what we want to achieve. We all agree on that. And I think this is a specific initiative which might provide an answer for some important issues. And that would be part of our collaboration to the overall vision.
Thank you, Thierry. Jonel, can we ask you for an industry perspective?
So I can give you my thoughts from the technical and industrial point of view. I think ELRC is a wonderful initiative because, as I said, finding relevant data is really very difficult. So every time we have a new project, we spend 1 or 2 weeks trying to find or to collect data to produce the right customized machine translation. And as I said before, with neural machine translation, everybody is using the same approaches, the same algorithm. Everything is open source. From Google, Facebook, Systron, everything is open source. And we don't think that the added value is on the technology. And of course, Systron is a private company, and we are not providing any more copyrighted solutions. So you can use OpenNMT, build your own system. But we really think that what makes the difference is the 2 folds. The first one is the expertise. We can say that, of course, we have tools to develop neural machine translation, but it still needs a lot of expertise. It's not straightforward to develop and build a neural machine translation. We started in 2015, and it took us almost 1 year to develop the correct neural machine translation. And this is why we are sharing our expertise and our tools through OpenNMT. The second thing that I want to mention is, again, the data. The data is really important, and this is something that is shared only This is a thought that is not only shared by Citron, but we have been discussing with people from Facebook, from Google, and they all think that the difference will be made on the data. So if you do have the right data in your domain of sufficient quality, this will make the difference on the quality. And I liked the talk of Kenneth this morning about the WIPO use case, saying that using the patent office documents is enough to develop a very accurate neural machine translation instead of using a generic machine translation and trying to adapt it with the documents. And this is really something that we should think about. I'm very happy that there is this initiative because as the MT at EC, there are some languages for which there is no parallel data. And so having this initiative to promote the sharing of data, trying to align what you are doing at the CF Telecom is really wonderful because, and I'm really looking forward to getting access to that data. And I hope that it can be used for commercial purposes. This is something that we are really eager to see. But this is really a wonderful initiative. And one thing I want to mention is Cistron, as I said, Cistron has been doing machine translation for 50 years now. Our main competitors are Google, Facebook, Amazon, all US-based companies. And they don't have to deal with the same rules. For instance, I just want to come back with the different regulation. In the US, as I said, there is this fair use for copyright, but we don't have here in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. And if we can push to simplify all the different IPR and legal issue, it will be much more easier for us to compete or try to compete with US-based companies that do not have to deal with all this complexity compared to what we have to do here in Europe.
Jamel, that's actually really nice because you're leading over into the next question. And that's going to be the final one. And it's going to be a quick one for everybody. And it's going to be a really, really difficult one. And the question is the following. What do you see are the main obstacles for this endeavor, for making it sustainable? So it's clear that we need coordination at the top level, at the European level. It's also clear that there's no one-size-fits-all for all the member states and that there's going to be a high dimension of individuality and making that bloom and prosper, etc. But what do you see are the main challenges and how would you overcome them? And can you be brief because we want to end on a positive note?
So I will be brief. From our point of view, the main problem is the fragmentation. So you can have corpora that are available in a lot of different sources. There is ELRC, there is TAOS, there is other initiative. So if we can federate all this initiative and try to have a common repository where we can find all the source of information and not having all this fragmentation on language resources, it will be very helpful. And again, if we can have the same regulation as in the US, it will be also beneficial from a research point of view.
Yeah.
Well, I add two things. For the experience that we are getting in collaborating with you and in working with our colleagues in DG Translation that are working on our system, well, I can say that first, it's the engagement of people, as you say, that decide and realize what is the return of investment in making that information available to others. of course, this also means that people are able to discover where this information is, which, okay, it's another issue. But on the top of that, I would say it's a matter of engagement with people which then will put this information aside. Once you have done that, I think it's also the critical mass and the quality of this information that counts. And that requires human resources. So, and it's an effort per se, because collecting for the sake of collecting is good, but then when you have to deliver a tailored, domain-specific machine translation service, then you have to have the quality data with robust and critical mass information there. So, and that is a challenge per se.
You wanted to end on a positive note, so I'll try to bring that into the picture. Okay, I think that we have to make known, we have to advertise success stories, and I think that if you can tell somewhere that even traditional, old-fashioned government translation services can get involved in this and contribute something and be part of this effort, then it will hopefully encourage others to get involved as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to reiterate that I'm representing a small service here, so I look at it from our perspective at a small level. I think it's a question of priorities. I think that we work with time constraints and workload pressures to get my colleagues to take time away from one thing to look at that. That's a major issue. I work for a government agency, which means there are security issues, but not the ones necessarily that have been addressed. I look at our network. We cannot download anything. We cannot accept anything into our network. It's the other way around, not what goes out, but what comes in. That makes it very, very difficult. And the other thing that I see is a question of ownership. And again, not necessarily copyrights. I'm thinking about, we're part of the communications department. And we are 8 people, and the only people in the whole of the government offices in Sweden that work with translation. Nobody else knows what we do. Nobody else knows what a CAT tool is. Nobody knows, really, that we built up a database. The question is, who actually owns that particular database? Is it us, the translators, who have made that? Or is it my superiors at the Ministry for Foreign Affairs? Or is it the government offices as a whole? I don't not know the answer to that. And I don't know if my superiors are even aware that's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my turn to end with a positive note.
Yes.
Yeah, I got the hot potato now. So there are many challenges in a way, but the positive note is I don't think there's any that cannot be overcome. So the success stories will accumulate over time, but it does take time because there are many challenges. We have many member states. We have, as you said, the issue of translation works behind the scenes in a way to make it work, in a way, which is a bit of a pity if you ask me, but that's the reality. So we need to build the success stories in making everyone understand, the real benefit of having a multilingual Europe and how to achieve that. So, which is through all our initiatives, this is what we're doing. And the way to do it is really getting organized, which is also what we're doing. So nothing will get solved immediately. It's going to be a step-by-step process, but it's still a process nonetheless, one that we can make work. And I believe that through the years, it's going to become transparent again because it's just going to work. So that would be my positive note.
Thank you. I think that's a great way to end. It's almost 1:15. Let me invite you to thank our panel for sharing their insights and their visions and their ideas with us here.